I had several dinners with him, hoping that what he said about getting billions of philanthropy for global health.
Enough goes on about philanthropy a lot, doesn't he? He's really pushing the philanthropy angle. I'm going around Jeffrey Epstein. Jeffrey Epstein? No, what? No. To talk about philanthropy, though. A new book about Jeffrey Epstein suggests that the revelations that we've already received will continue to be muddied, and the chance of ever knowing the truth remains unlikely, slim. Why does the Jeffrey Epstein case continue to create such a storm? What contacts did he have? What was he providing? What is the real truth? And how do stories like this one generate continual mistrust between ordinary people, the media, and the government?
We still don't have the basic documents of the FBI case, do we?
No. There's, one of the underlying pieces of this story is how much is still secret.
So Judy K. Brown is the person that broke the story and pursued it for ages when loads of big mainstream media organisations just wouldn't touch it. We can speculate as to why that might have been, likely because it compromised relationships, biases, interests that those media organisations shared. And that's the kind of thing that I think a lot of people suspect goes on, that certain stories don't get printed, published, reported because of the kind of relationships. And this story, one of the many facets around, also of course there's the inclusion of intrigue and perversion and erotica, but really it's a story about corruption and the way that information can be controlled and manipulated, and the way that powerful people can behave in a way that's outside of the rules that are prescribed for ordinary people.
How many things are still sealed? How many things are redacted? How much information, even involving his death? There is so much we don't know. And as long as we don't have these kinds of information, there's always going to be conspiracy theories, number one. And number two,
is it a conspiracy theory when a person somehow commits suicide in a way that doesn't seem to make sense, who's had relationships with some of the most powerful people in the world, when the media doesn't initially report on it? I don't know that that's conspiracy theory.
It's way really to keep people silent because they're afraid, and it's a mechanism to hide the truth, I think.
I want to ask you about that 2008 plea deal, which gave immunity to any potential accomplices of Jeffrey Epstein.
Following a plea deal negotiated by Epstein's team of prestigious and expensive lawyers, he was allowed to escape jail and was granted immunity from further prosecution. A further decade passed before he was stopped. Why was the case dropped? Epstein was a big donor to the Democrats, but as Brown says, the divide is not Republican versus Democrat, it's the rich and powerful versus everyone else. Epstein's friends included Nobel Prize winners and high-profile figures in media and politics.
It's interesting. You write that a lot of big names were friendly with Epstein.
Friendly? We're friends.
But you also say that they tell you that they knew nothing about his illegal contact with women. A lot of people will find that hard to believe. What has your reporting uncovered?
Well, Epstein had a whole ecosystem of people. He did not do this crime in isolation. And I have information, my reporting shows that there were other powerful people that were involved in this.
At the time, journalists were not interested in writing about Epstein, and it was a struggle to persuade editors to let her pursue the story. I didn't really at the time believe that any media network would have succumbed to pressure to ignore or drop such an important story, she writes. I was, however, naive and wrong. There are news organisations that protect powerful people. She says Epstein likely had video surveillance of the people he came into contact with, and probably had tapes and photographs of powerful men in compromising positions, and there's a possibility it was used to blackmail them.
Julie, you have a chapter in your book titled Jeffrey Epstein Didn't Kill Himself. What evidence do you have that he didn't?
Well, let's put it this way. I think that there's, again, too much has been hidden. The cameras weren't working. Yes. The guards were asleep.
There are a lot of coincidences.
His cellmate was taken out the night before. And he shouldn't have been left alone. He was just released from suicide watch.
Right, we've got you under suicide watch. Now go back to your cell, turn off the cameras, have a nap, and your cellmate, he's out of here as well. It's one extreme to the other.
So as long as they keep the investigation itself secret, as long as they do not release the details, I think there's going to be always a question about this.
I suppose what the story reveals is that corruption of this kind cannot exist in isolation as an anomaly. It is an institution. It is cultural. And it is a requirement subsequent to the revelation that it is portrayed as, an individual, bad apples, a monster, quirk, however you want to see it. But the obvious fact is that something like that can't go on for as long as it did and involve as many people as it did without it being accepted, ordinary, normal. It's not a problem in the eyes of the powerful that Epstein did that. It's a problem that it's been discovered. That's the problem. So now the whole of that information has to be reframed, repositioned, reposited, because there's too many people involved. Other scandals of this nature, the institutional flavour is unavoidable because they occupy powerful positions, have powerful relationships, and in a sense, if you pursue the Jeffrey Epstein case to a logical conclusion, you kind of have to undo the format and foundation of relationships of that nature that powerful people operate in clandestine circles, exploiting people, obviously in this instance, the victims. This is the kind of thing that needs to be addressed at a kind of quite a large and significant level. It's not enough to go, oh, well, that guy's killed himself now, so the problem of powerful people having, trafficking rings and operating in shady liminal spaces, that dies with him. I mean, if someone has explicitly had relationships with some of the most influential and powerful people of the last 20 years, it's, I suppose, what it demonstrates most clearly, at least to me, is that the systems themselves are broken, that those kind of relationships have to be, well, if those kind of relationships exist, it sort of demonstrates the problems of power, concentrated power of that nature.
The New York Times and Wall Street Journal both reported in recent months that Melinda was concerned about a relationship you had with Jeffrey Epstein.
How long can Bill Gates be positioned as a potential nerd saviour of the planet when it seems he has these peculiar relationships, bizarre interests, and many of the decisions that he makes appear to be extremely beneficial to one person in particular, Bill Gates? Whether it's agriculture or vaccines or dabbling in tech or buying up farmland, Bill Gates has got his finger in a lot of pies.
The Times reported she hired divorce attorneys around the time in October 2019 when that contact with Epstein became public.
This is from the Daily Beast, writing about Bill Gates' connection with Epstein. Epstein gave Gates advice on ending his marriage with Melinda Gates after the Microsoft co-founder complained about her during a series of meetings at the money manager's mansion, according to two people familiar with the situation. Gates used the gatherings at Epstein's New York townhouse as an escape from what he told Epstein was a toxic marriage. I've got to get away from the toxicity of my marriage. I'm going around Epstein's. The billionaire met Epstein dozens of times, starting in 2011 and continuing through to 2014, mostly at the financer's Manhattan home, a substantially higher number than has been previously reported. Their conversations took place years before Bill and Melinda Gates announced this month that they were splitting up. Gates, in turn, encouraged Epstein to rehabilitate his image in the media. That's going well. And discussed Epstein becoming involved with the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. The people familiar with the matter said Gates found freedom in Epstein's lair, where he met a rotating cast of bold-faced names and discussed worldly issues in between rounds of jokes and gossip, a men's club atmosphere that irritated Melinda. It's not an overstatement. Going to Jeffrey's was a respite from his marriage. It was a way of getting away from Melinda. One of the people at several of the meetings said, adding that Epstein and Gates were very close. So, I suppose it's nothing new to suggest that very powerful people collaborate and form alliances. I suppose what this story has revealed is the way that those relationships are able to subvert what are explicitly understood to be the channels and systems of power. Given as well that the case ends, or at least had a high point or a pinnacle of sorts in the apparent suicide of Epstein, one begins to wonder, wow, this is a significant event that's about the concealment of important information.
Can you explain your relationship with Epstein? Did you have any concerns? Was there ever any concerns you had about it?
Oh, certainly. I had several dinners with him, hoping that what he said about getting billions of philanthropy for global health.
Bill Gates, enough goes on about philanthropy a lot, doesn't he? He's really pushing the philanthropy angle. I'm going around Jeffrey Epstein. Jeffrey Epstein? No, what? No. To talk about philanthropy, though.
Philanthropy for global health through contacts that he had might emerge.
I'm worried about the context that I continually hear the word philanthropy used as. It's normally used as a shield or barrier for corruption, whether it's Davos or people going, this is my philanthropy fund that I don't pay any tax on. Now, from now on, when you hear the word philanthropy, be suspicious. Hello, I'm a philanthropist. Oh, Jesus Christ, get away from me. Kids, go indoors. There's a philanthropist on the street.
You know, when it looked like that wasn't a real thing, that relationship ended.
Probably could have worked out whether or not he was going to do the philanthropy with a phone call. Sort of like this. You up for billions of dollars of philanthropy? Not really, I've got quite a lot on at the moment. Bloody hell, Jesus Christ. All right, well, yeah, we'll cancel that dinner then. Bye, mate.
But it was a huge mistake to spend time with him, to give him the credibility of, you know, being there. There were lots of others in that same situation.
That sounds like a coded, listen, I was just there with a lot of other people. I hope you guys are watching this, because if I go down, you're going down with me. I'm bloody good with computers. I'll get in those systems.
But I made a mistake.
We'll probably never know the truth about what went on with Jeffrey Epstein, his death, his life, his contacts, but already it seems that there's sufficient information to suggest that there is a world that is somewhat shadowy, where relationships are conducted that perhaps oughtn't have done. That there's probably a financial component, and it seems, at least from what's been reported, another significant component. Always the conclusions that suggest themselves to me are wearyingly simple. That you can't concentrate that much power, that much financial influence, that much political bias, that much potency through tech and relationships and influence in one area and imagine that people will behave responsibly. I suppose that the Jeffrey Epstein case demonstrates that people in rarefied places have the same flaws, concerns, interests that many ordinary people have, and have a capacity for corruption and exploitation that is somewhat giddying and potentially very dangerous. For me, what it suggests is that we ought to be able to control our own lives, not operate in the shadows of people that may pose as somehow superior, different, morally sublime, when in fact it seems that the opposite is true, that they are subject to ordinary feelings that operate in a realm where those feelings can be amplified to a dangerous level. Hey, if you enjoyed this video, please comment below and subscribe to my mailing list at russellbrand.com and listen to my podcast. It's on Luminary. You can get it from Apple. I do one conversation every week that's deep, and I do a guided meditation every week. If you want to do a bit of meditation right now to clear your head, have a look at this one or some well-being content on my side channel, Awakening. And if you like this kind of stuff, check this video out. Remember to subscribe to this channel. Stay with us. Thank you.